This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Hello and welcome to Research Talks here on Stockbox with Alan Green. How are you doing, Alan? Again, the end of another week. How's it been?
Well, it's that Friday feeling, Mark. It's feeling good.
Good.
2 days off, which is always nice. And yeah, we have this benign weather outlook where we've just got a bit of cloud and a bit of a breeze, but no rain on the horizon for the next week or so. So that's pretty good.
Well, it's always nice, isn't it? But it's certainly getting chillier and definitely noticeable the nights are drawing in. So it's definitely that back to work feeling. Let's hope some liquidity does come back to the markets here. It's still hear CEOs complaining how tough it is on interviews. I feel like saying, well, take a shot of man up and get on with it, guys. But well, hopefully the markets do ease a little bit for everyone's sake there. But today we're going to cover a company we've not spoken about before on East Star. They came on to Stockbox for the first time just this week. That's East Star Resources, based out in Kazakhstan. And also, of course, First Class Metals, who we've not spoken about for a little while. So we'll be looking forward to getting a bit of an update from your point of view on First Class. But starting with East Star, Alan.
East Star, Mark. Yes. So East Star Resources, London listed. EST, of course, is the EPIC code for the company. And as you say, this is a company that's based in Kazakhstan. You know the size of Kazakhstan. It's really quite something. It's the size of Europe, and it really is a global mineral powerhouse. I mean, the company has. I'll go into details on the projects, but the three projects, if you consider, one was based in Romania, the other one will be based in central France. Those are sort of distances involved, but nonetheless, Kazakhstan is highly regarded as a global mineral powerhouse, and you've got a lot of the mining majors, companies like Glencore, Rio Tinto, and Fortescue, who are obviously the massive Australian concern. They're all active in the country and developing projects. Part of the rationale behind getting involved in Kazakhstan, certainly for East Star, is the fact that some new mineral laws have been established by a progressive government, and they're using Western mining codes now to provide assessments for regional projects to ensure, of course, that the benchmarks that are internationally recognized are applied to the mineral finds in Kazakhstan, of which there are many. I think probably one of the more bearish points that you could say about, or you could apply to Kazakhstan, is that it's the northernmost of the stars, and of course it has a long border with Russia, and obviously where Vladdy the Baddy is concerned at the moment, what's his next move going to be? He could decide to make a move on Kazakhstan, but of course that's if he has the resource to do that. But that's really a bit of a red herring. So we'll put that to one side. But nonetheless, the government are very progressive, seeking to work with incumbent companies there. And I think the other factor with East Star Resources is the fact that the CEO, Mark, who you interviewed earlier this week, is actually based in Almaty. That's of course the capital of Kazakhstan. Anyone that watched the Long Way Round with Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman will have seen them visit Almaty. It's quite a city, and of course Alex Walker is based there. Alex, his background, he's a mining investment banker and resource executive, worked in Australia for many years, co-founder and manager of Scandi Vanadium, and he's got over 15 years experience in the business, but he's very much a feet on the ground chief executive in Kazakhstan. And I think that's that's what sets it apart. I think we've seen other companies listed out there or listed in these Central Asian countries, and of course they very rarely, if ever, go to visit the projects, and that certainly is a factor very much in favour of eStar Resources. Just a word about the board. Non-exec chairman Sandy Barber, of course, in London-based, involved in minerals or mining metals for over 20 years. He was co-founder of AIM-listed Capital Metals, and worked in management at Pace PLC, and has also worked and is involved with many other companies. David mentioned non-exec director, geologist Rio Tinto. He's also former chief executive of AIM-listed Helium One, and is managing director of Scandi Vanadium, where of course Alex Walker was co-founder. So a bit more about Kazakhstan. There are many historical mining works across the country which weren't progressed, but of course the work that's done there is a tremendous amount of data and historical exploration activity in the region. There's also a lot of high quality regional mapping that the company is working from, and from a logistical standpoint, there is a very active and busy middle corridor of road and rail networks that link with China to the east, and of course Europe and the rest of the world to the west. So the projects that eStar Resources is engaged with, there are three primary projects, three mineral districts. Now, in the east of Kazakhstan, we have a copper, zinc, and lead project at Verkhuba, and across the Rudny Altai VMS. So VMS, of course, being volcanic massive sulfide belt. There are the company has a JORC exploration target at Verkhuba of between 19 and 23 million tons of between 1.4 to 1.9% copper equivalent. There are 4 drill-ready targets, and this is obviously looking at the presentation that was out early this year. Also 40 follow-up targets. There's also, thanks to the historical workings in the region, an established mineral processing infrastructure in place, and also good transport links as well. And this is also largely, or I say largely, due in some way to the existing operators in the region. These include Kaz Minerals. Obviously, Kaz Minerals was a darling on the mining sector a few years back, and also a subsidiary of Glencore called Kazzinc. So that's worth noting. So that's the copper, zinc, and lead target the company are looking at. In the central Kazakhstan, the company is looking at the Telerik deposit, and this is a rare earths deposit which has a non-compliant resource estimate of just under 20,000 tons of total rare earth oxides. Again, the company had historical data to go on before it went into the region, and in its 2022 drill results that were announced earlier this year, the company said that there was certainly exploration upside from a 12-kilometer strike area which had been unexplored, and the strike area contains largely granites, which of course are very prospective for rare earths. The company has done some work on leaching on the weathered rock and minerals there, and they're currently undergoing or undertaking an assessment of whether or not they can establish a viable technique to extract rare earths from these granites. So we'll hear more about that, I'm sure, as we go forward. So to the south of Kazakhstan, the third license is an orogenic gold license targeting up to 1 million ounces of gold. There are existing artisanal gold deposits within the license area. Remember, I said there was a lot of historical workings, and of course, as you often see in vast territories or sparsely populated territories like this, there's a lot of artisanal work that has gone on previously, and obviously that's a good place to start if you're exploring for gold. But the company has established from this a 10-kilometer strike zone with demonstrated gold at economic grades at Mintus and Downley properties. So again, that's those really are three very strong targets to go after. So in terms of updates, the company, of course, has been going for a number of years, established in 2021. The share price currently is trading at 1.4p. That's down over the year, but frankly is in line with peer group companies. Mark, we were saying before we came on about the parlous state of the market, and obviously the battles that a lot of these smaller mining companies are having to endure to raise funds to carry on their work. But carrying on their work, they are, and there is good progress being made. And at some point, the markets, the valuations in the companies will reflect that. But we are seeing progress with some companies, notably over the past few weeks, we've seen an uplift in the share price, for example, of ECR Minerals in Australia on the back of some of the results, the gold results that have come out of their projects in Queensland. So the market does respond. So I've no doubt that when East Star takes a significant step forward in regard to exploration, the share price will respond accordingly. So the most recent updates from the company, September the 29th, the company produced its half-year results and a summary of activities. In the drilling work, remember the first project in the east of the country, the Vacuba prospect, the company undertook visual core inspection, used a handheld PXRF machine to which confirmed readings of copper and zinc in the first 4 holes drilled at the Vacuba. A large thickness of copper was also identified from this drilling activity. None of this copper had been previously assayed or identified in historical drilling. So on the back of that, the company has initiated a multi-element assay multi-element assay work at the lab to look for copper, zinc, gold, and silver, and we'll have news on that, no doubt, in the coming weeks and months. As far as the rare earth project in the center of Kazakhstan, the Telerik deposit, the company is undergoing that assessment to see whether they can establish an economic method to leach rare earths from that weather granite I was talking about. And in the south of the country, the orogenic gold license, the work there has established gold mineralization in all 3 target areas, with Eshkilital 2 and Southern Shabdar drill targets yielding potentially economic grades. So that's a big step forward there. Indeed, with Eshkilital 2, the company believes there is potential for a 1 kilometer mineralized system, and further upside once that's established from an area some 10 kilometers in length, a 10 kilometer strike area. The Dalnay assays have confirmed gold-bearing mineralized systems within the area. The intersections are at shallow depth, potentially economic grades as well. So that was the update in September. The latest news, of course, is in October. The company has just raised £540,000 to further advance its licenses. The money was raised at 1.5p. Shares are trading below that now, so you can pick these shares at below the raise price. And that's significant because Alex Walker, chief executive, participated in that raise, as did the company's largest shareholder, a company called Iwela Pty Limited, and they basically participated in order to retain their existing 17% stake. So the proceeds from that raise are going to be used as follows. They're going to model the Vacuba copper deposits, and the drill results from that are due in Q4. So I would suggest that somebody looking at East Star Resources or a potential investor looking at that might want to pick the stock up now below that raised price before those results come in, because that that could be a real value inflection point for the company. The funds are also going to be used for further drilling at Vacuba towards establishing an initial JORC resource there, and also will be used to establish in the drill targets in the Rudny Altai belt, the VMS belt, and also progress the licenses there too, along with further mapping and analysis work for the company. So in summary, there's an awful lot to look forward to. We have these drill results from Vacuba due in Q4. So really, probably a few weeks away, which to me is a good point to I think consider the stock where it is now. I mean, we're trading now just off all-time lows. That's 1.35p. So you could probably nip in and get some stock now at around 1.4p, and you'd be well positioned to take advantage of any rise if those drill results from Vacuba tick all the boxes.
Indeed, and you are right. The company can, its fortunes can turn around fairly quickly, as we saw there with ECR, and of course East Star there trading at pretty low valuations, but raised, as you say, over $500,000 recently to pursue these VMS areas and hopefully prove up some more. And it's the best time to be involved in an exploration company, isn't it? When they've got some money to go and actually go and drill the ground and explore, not without risk. Obviously, it's a very risky business, is exploration, but the best time to be in a company when they are funded and active on the ground. So thank you, Alan, for introducing East Star. I'll be following that story very closely, I'm sure, seeing how things develop. But I did like my discussion with the CEO there, Alex. He came across very well, very confident. As you say, he lives in country. So he's very optimistic about the prospects of Kazakhstan in the future for a minerals exporter. So, yeah, we'll see.
I think it's we're talking about CEOs, Mark, who actually get down and dirty and actually have feet on the ground. That's really important, I think, nowadays. Because I think if you're invested into a company, you want to see the chief executive on the ground alongside the geos, understanding what's coming out of the ground. And obviously, if the chief executive are former geologists too, that's even better. But I think Alex, living in Almaty, that's a great that's a real asset, I think, because then he can respond quickly and be on site, within a few hours to assess any developments, and that's important.
Okay, well, let's talk then a little bit about First Class Metals and what's going on with First Class. Of course, a company that we talked very highly about before, didn't we? Hitting the ground running after IPO. But what's the latest from your point of view with First Class and where they're active?
Well, of course, this is an interesting follow-on, I think, from the event, which of course, Stopbox Philmark, which took place the Canada evening, which featured First Class Metals, featured Fulcrum Metals, and of course Panther Metals, and it was a very interesting evening. I was there. I had a chance to have a long chat with Mark, and of course look at that fantastic piece of rock that he brought over. Which is now a key part of the First Class Metals presentation portfolio. But the company, of course, came to market last year. It was backed heavily by Power Metal Resources, who still hold a big stake in the company, and it was a very I think amidst difficult market conditions, it really shone out like a beacon as an incredibly successful IPO, and the share price now has come back really to that IPO price, or slightly below the IPO price, in fact. But with a valuation of just 6.8 million, the progress the company has made since IPO really should warrant a far higher price target. And indeed, the company broker First Equity put out a note on First Class Metals in August this year, recommending the stock as a buy with a price target somewhere between 24 and 30p. So here we are at 8.25 pence. There is clearly value in the company. So again, a Canada-focused company. First Class Metals have a number of assets If we go to Lake Superior, of course, Lake Superior really gives Canada unlimited access to North America. But along the north coast there is the Schreiber-Hemlo Gold Belt, which is legendary amongst explorers, has produced many mines and many millions of tons of gold and other minerals over the years. The company has a number of assets centered around the Barrick-Hemlo gold mine, which of course has produced many millions of tons of gold, is a world famous mine. To the north or the northeast of that, the company has the West Pickle Lake asset and the Dead Otter Lake assets, which have been developed and are worked in conjunction or as part of a joint venture with a company called Palladium One. And of course, Palladium One to the east of the West Pickle Lake has a project called the Tycho project, a nickel project, which is or a nickel and copper project, which is of course came to prominence recently due to an investment by Glencore of some $6 million into the company to take a significant stake in the business. And that's really, we've spoken before about how the junior miners develop, but also how the mining majors also continue to build their value too. And they do this through investing. We spoke about Sovereign Metals, of course, and the $40 million investment into the Cassia project in Malawi by Rio Tinto. Well, this is Glencore doing the same thing in Canada. So a hugely significant endorsement. Then, if we come to the south west of the West Pickle Lake and the Dead Otter Lake assets, we come to the Essa asset, which is a shear zone, which pretty well mimics the geology at the Barrick gold mine, and also is only 8 kilometers from Barrick. So there's a lot of excitement about this, understandably, because they're seeing a lot of similarities in the ground there. The soil sampling there it has really excited the team. The results from that will of course be on their way in, and I think Essa could very much be a big play for first class metals going forward. So to the west of that, we have other projects. We have the Magical project, the McKellar project, Enable, Cocoa East, and all of these are assets. I'm not going to go into detail about those today. We'll look at those as and when they come to prominence later on. And then much further to the west, in fact, to the west of Thunder Bay. And Thunder Bay is a key logistical hub, if you like, for the region, because of course any materials and minerals produced from these surrounding mines goes to Thunder Bay and is shipped out across Lake Superior to get to the rest of North America, and on it goes. But the Sunbeam gold mine is an historical mine, over 100 years old, and the company has said there's just a huge litany of targets across 3 10-kilometer trends in the area, and the grab samples there, for instance, are pulled out a gold sample, a 30 ounce or 30 gram per ton gold sample, and nearby, of course, there is the Agnico Eagle Hammond Reef, which is a 3.3 million ounce gold deposit, and again, this is an area that's really rife and rich with gold. So having historical data and also so many historical mine works to go on, the team are naturally very excited about developing that. But the current focus for the group, and again, this was very evident when I was talking to Mark, is their lithium property. The company announced back in March this year an earning opportunity with the Zigzag Lithium project, and this is up to the north of Lake Superior. In fact, it's at the north of Nipigon Lake, and is in what can only be described as lithium-rich territory. The company has a an earning with a company called Nuinsco Resources, opportunity to earn in up to 80% overall. And the company initially completed the first part of that by issuing shares in First Class Metals to Nuinsco. And they've been on site, and I mentioned, we mentioned just now, chief executives getting down and dirty. Mark Sale is a geologist by trade, and he's you can see has this enthusiasm and raw excitement for working on the ground and discovering the opportunities that lie there. And when I spoke to him, he was describing what they'd found at Zigzag, and they're just finding these random samples, containing hunks of rock containing 1.25% lithium sitting there in the snow, and they have a block some 800 meters, which is drill ready, and of course they're hugely excited about the fact that you can walk around this area and the boulders are literally just sitting there. So I think we're going to see going forward, perhaps once the weather improves next year, we'll see some more drone work, so we can get a true understanding of the scale and perspective of the region. But there is a very good map on the First Class Metals website. If you go to go and look at the Zigzag lithium map, you'll see that it's surrounded by projects that are already producing lithium and have resources in the ground. So literally a half to 1 kilometer away, there are 3 deposits called the Dempster deposits. We then have the Chapels Lake deposit, which is 2 kilometers to the west. Then some 10 kilometers to the west, there's the Seymour Lake deposit, which is held by ASX listed Green Technology Metals. This is 9.9 million tons at just over 1% lithium oxide. And the spodumene concentrate that's been tested by Green Technology Metals has recovered lithium well over 72%. So hugely exciting step forward. We hear about the process that the mines go through, and obviously Mark with the Zulu Lithium project in Africa, the beneficiation plant, and all of the infrastructure put in place. So there is a beneficiation plant under construction there to ship the lithium oxide or the lithium concentrate when it's produced to a manufacturing facility at Thunder Bay, and then of course it'll get shipped on from there. But that's not the only project. They're surrounded by other projects. So to the south east of Zigzag, we have the Landor Resources Junior Lake asset. That's 3.86 million tons at 0.7% nickel, 0.3% copper, and also 0.4% palladium indicated resource. Then to the due east, and again, so you've got Green Technology Metals to the west, Battery Age Metals to the east own the Falcon Lake deposit, again an ASX listed company, 42 square kilometers. Drilling intercepts there include 24.5 meters at 1.48% lithium oxide, and again, this is these are companies that are well on the way to producing lithium oxide, which is hugely important. But I think what's also highly significant, and again, talking to the First Class Metals team at the show, was the proliferation of gigafactories that are springing up in the area. So surrounding the immediate area, you have a company called Akasol, you have a company called A123, LG Chem, Windsor Essex, Epson Electric, Solid Energy, M3NY, and these are all gigafactories that are being set up. Another one by LG Chem as well. Gigafactories that are being set up almost immediately around Lake Superior to take advantage of these lithium finds that are coming on stream. When you explore in the area, you also have to, of course, apply for your licenses in the conventional way. but also you work closely with the indigenous community. And Mark was explaining at this evening, and also there was an announcement, of course, on the 16th of August that they signed a memorandum of understanding with White Sand First Nation to effectively secure endorsement from the indigenous population to be able to explore that. And of course, that means that the corporate and social responsibility, or the CSR element, is very strong for the company in terms of the way it treats the area, how it employs, engages with the locals there, and looks after the territory and ensures at the end it's returned in its original form. So that's already been signed, and Mark was explaining, a lot of companies have gone to get their mining licenses and then gone to engage with the indigenous population, and of course they've encountered difficulties. And Mark has just taken this approach, working in the area for many years. They've already got the permission from there, so it will make it easier for them to secure that license and to get working. So I found that very interesting, and of course a very important step forward too for the company. So one final point here as well: obviously when these plants are up and running, you require electricity. At the Jackfish River, there's very cheap hydropower being produced by a company there, which means that all the companies in the area can tap into that power source. So the costs of running the project and running the infrastructure once it's set up are very minimal. So there are lots of steps still to take, but I think the Zigzag I think is a real focus for the company right now. Bear in mind the gigafactories that are already springing up around the area to take or to really take the lithium supply in. So when they build these batteries, they've got a ready supply on their doorstep coming through that Thunder Bay facility. And you have the other projects around that, of course, are already more developed. And who's to say maybe First Class Metals will find that once they've secured the 80% ownership, one of the other companies in the area might take a look and say, well, actually, it's contiguous with our geology, so we'll come in with you. All sorts of things can happen. Early days, but I think First Class Metals, as it stands now, offers terrific value. Right back at the IPO price at 8.24p, and bear in mind that first equity note out August this year by First Class Metals, price target 24 to 30p, and that's the note's worth reading because I think it'll give you a great deal more background. Anyway, that's all from me.
Thank you very much, Alan. So that's covered off the East Star Resources and First Class Metals. And yes, you're right, Mark Sale was at that event in London, which actually attracted a lot of people, more than I think most people were expecting there. And Canada, of course, a very good place for mining companies to get on with exploring for minerals. There's a lot of tax incentives over there. The government is very supportive. There was that lady there from the embassy who was talking about investment. She was actually Ontario, the Agent General, I think she was called. And there's a lot of incentives to get mining companies, grants, that kind of thing, or incentives for investors. And Mark Sale, yes, very happily showing off his rocks there. So, I'm looking forward to following how things are going. And, of course, with the other companies there who are also in that area, of course, Fulcrum and Panther Metals as well. But Mark Sale certainly is a guy who doesn't shy away from getting out, a bit like Alex, who we talked about at the start, getting out on the ground, getting stuck amongst the exploration works. Thank you for bringing us up to speed on First Class Metals, and I wish you a pleasant weekend, Alan, and we'll speak again in a week's time.
You too, Mark. Have a great weekend.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.